A kingdom at the crossroads. The mountains wake before the sun. They rise in layers of stone and snow, guarding Georgia like ancient witnesses who have seen too much to be impressed anymore. Morning light slips across monastery walls clinging to cliffs, bells tolling softly into cold air. Below, valleys breathe with mist, trade roads winding like veins between empires that never quite stop circling. This is not a gentle land. It sits where worlds collide, between Byzantium and Persia, Christianity and Islam, East and West, ambition and survival. Georgia has learned over centuries how to stand its ground, with one hand on a prayer and the other on a sword. For generations, kings have ruled here by force and faith, and now, impossibly, a woman is about to inherit the crown. Inside stone halls, heavy with incense and expectation, courtiers lower their voices, bishops exchange careful looks, nobles smile too quickly. Everyone understands the problem, though no one says it aloud. A queen can wear a crown, but rule? That is another matter entirely. Her name is Tamar. She was born into power, yes, but power in this world is never given freely, and it is never forgiven easily. The throne she approaches has already decided to test her. The men around her are already calculating how to bend her, marry her, manage her. They believe they are watching a coronation. What they are really watching is the beginning of a reckoning. Because Tamar does not arrive trembling, she does not apologize for the crown waiting for her. She has been raised inside these walls, listening to the language of rule long before she was old enough to speak it herself. She knows the cost of weakness. She knows the weight of expectation. She knows that Georgia cannot afford a ruler who hesitates. The mountains outside do not bow. Neither will she. To understand how Tamar became the most powerful ruler Georgia ever knew, how a woman was called king because language itself had to stretch to contain her, you have to begin where her story truly starts. Not at the throne, but in the shadow of it. Tamar was born into a house that knew how to rule and how to fear. The Bagrationi dynasty had held Georgia together through war and faith, blood and bargains. Tamar grew up surrounded by stone walls, incense smoke, and the quiet mathematics of power. She learned early that smiles could mean loyalty or threat, depending on who wore them. From infancy, she was watched. Not with affection alone, but with assessment. A daughter, not a son. A future problem. The court spoke gently around her, but their thoughts were loud. Who would marry her? Who would rule through her? Who would keep the throne safe once the king was gone? Tamar learned to sit still under scrutiny. She learned to listen without reacting. She learned that doubt, when ignored, grows reckless. And she learned something else too. She was not afraid of it. King George III saw what others refused to. He saw his daughter's composure, her attention, her refusal to shrink. He watched how she absorbed lessons meant for sons and made them her own. And so he did something dangerous. He named Tamar co-ruler while he still lived. It was a preemptive strike, a way of forcing the kingdom to accept what it would otherwise resist. Tamar appeared beside him in court, in ceremony, in judgment. She learned the machinery of governance while the crown still rested on her father's head. The nobles smiled. Behind their smiles, they planned. They waited for the moment George III would die and the girl would be left alone. They did not yet understand that Tamar was already ruling. When her father died, the kingdom exhaled and immediately tensed again. Tamar was crowned queen, and within moments the demands began. Power sharing, councils with teeth, restrictions dressed up as guidance. Men who had bowed to her father now leaned forward when they spoke to her, testing the limits of her authority. Church leaders questioned her resolve. Nobles questioned her judgment. They expected hesitation. Tamar listened and said very little, because she understood something vital. Authority is not proven by arguing for it. It is proven by surviving the test. The test came disguised as tradition. The court insisted Tamar must marry. A queen, they argued, needed a husband to rule beside her. What they meant was simpler. She needed someone to control. They chose Prince Uri of Rus. He arrived with charm and pedigree, and quickly revealed cruelty beneath both. He drank. He raged. He humiliated her publicly and privately, treating the throne as something he had inherited by proximity. The court watched. Some waited for Tamar to endure it quietly. Others waited for her to break. She did neither. Tamar made a decision no one thought possible. She annulled the marriage. Legally. Publicly. Without apology. In the medieval world, a woman discarding a husband, especially a queen, was almost unthinkable. The shock rippled through the court like a crack through ice. They had tried to cage her. Instead, they taught her exactly how strong she was. From that moment on, Tamar ruled alone, and on purpose. She moved quickly. Loyal advisors rose, troublemakers were sidelined, councils were reshaped. The balance of power shifted so smoothly that many did not notice until it was too late to resist. Tamar did not roar. She stabilized, and stability, in a kingdom long accustomed to turbulence, felt like magic. Tamar's power was not only political. She ruled through faith, deep, disciplined, unshowy. She funded monasteries, protected scholars, reformed laws to defend the poor and limit corruption. Justice became visible again. Her reign felt different because it was different. Where others ruled through fear, Tamar ruled through legitimacy. People obeyed because the system made sense, and when enemies looked for weakness, they found none. Trade flourished, culture bloomed, Georgia grew richer, stronger, calmer. Poets wrote, builders carved stone, borders held, and slowly, without announcement, Georgia entered a golden age. Of course, peace never goes untested. Neighboring powers watched Georgia's rise with interest and concern. Armies gathered, borders trembled. Tamar did not panic. She prayed. Then she sent generals, and Georgia won. Battle after battle tipped in her favor. Enemies retreated. Allies aligned themselves carefully. No one questioned her legitimacy anymore. A woman had done what kings are remembered for. Tamar remarried, but this time on her terms. Her new husband was a partner, not a leash. A support, not a shadow. Love entered her life without demanding her crown in return. Power and intimacy coexisted. Rare, revolutionary, intentional. The court adjusted its language. Chroniclers referred to her not as queen, but as king, because there was no other word large enough. She ruled as sovereign, not exception. The title bent. She did not. Churches rose. Laws endured. Borders stabilized. By the time Tamar's reign waned, she had become mythic, spoken of with reverence rather than debate. Her death came quietly. Her burial place remains uncertain. A fitting end for a woman who belonged more to history than to the ground. Picture Georgia at dawn. Mountains, bells, stone. A kingdom standing tall because a woman once refused to be made small. Tamar did not rule like a woman, she ruled like a king, and history once again had to adjust. If you felt the weight of the crown and the quiet steel in her resolve, don't let her story fade back into the mountains. History is full of women who refused the cage, who learned to rule without asking permission, and who reshaped the world simply by standing their ground. Subscribe as we continue to exhume the lives of the dark heroines. Next time, we leave the stone monasteries of Georgia and travel south to the blazing sun and shifting sands of ancient Egypt. We're meeting a woman who put on the false beard of a king, declared herself pharaoh, and ruled a golden age while history tried very hard to erase her. Next time, Hatshepsut, the woman who ruled as a king. Stay dangerous, stay loud, and never let them hold the pen.